Hello guys, today we are going to be animating an advanced brightness slider using protopie. By the way, I'm e.t.c and I'm so happy because this is my first video in YouTube. I hope you guys will learn a lot from it. Alright, let's get started. Okay, we have our design here in protopie. You can get this design from my Figma design community. The link is in the caption below. Okay, before we start, I would like to explain the logic behind the brightness slider animation. As you can see, there is this frame, it's brightness frame. It has a fill color of black and its opacity is currently set at 80. So the trick here is while we interact with this brightness slider, that is when we move it from this position to this position, we want to reduce or increase the opacity of this brightness frame. So now you know, let's get started. First of all, I'm going to have to turn it off because we won't be using it anytime soon. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is to create a component using one of our rectangles here, because we need to assign responses and triggers to all of this, but that would be really stressful. So the easiest thing to do is just to create a component with it. So with it highlighted, click component. Okay, so let's edit our main component now. Okay, that's good. So let's set the origin point for this rectangle. Origin point is where we want this rectangle to move or scale from. Currently it's at the top left, as you can see here. Let's make it to be at the center because that's what we want for this particular tutorial. Okay, so we have to replace this component with other rectangles in the scene currently, but let's change the color so that we're not going to confuse ourselves with the ones that are components and the ones that are not. Let's currently give it a color of, let's say, red. It doesn't really matter. Okay, we're back at our scene. Okay, so what we have to do now is just to duplicate our component, or you can add more components this way. You highlight and drop. So what we have to do is just change it with the other components that are here. So when you're done, just come back and we'll continue from where we stopped. Okay, we have replaced our rectangles with our components. So let's go back and change our rectangles back to its previous color. Okay, click on rectangle. Let's change the fill color back to, I think it was 7E. Yeah, correct. Okay, let's go back to our scene. Okay, for now you can see nothing is actually working. Everything is still static. Nothing is working yet. Okay, let's make our brightness knob to be able to move. Okay, let's do that. Okay, to be able to do that, you have to click on your brightness knob. On my system, I hold command while left clicking on it. On Windows, I think it's control and then left click. Okay, so with it highlighted, we click on add trigger. Let's add the drag trigger. Okay, let's add the move response. Okay, here we can see direction. This is horizontal, up or down, left or right, or diagonal. So let's click on middle one, which has to be left or right, because that's what we want our brightness knob to be doing. Okay, the limit, let's set it to container. When we set it this way, it means that this brightness knob won't exceed its container, and its container is this. So you see, it won't exceed from here to here. Okay, let's check it now. Okay, see, it's moving, but there's still a problem. We need this blue slide bar to be moving with it. So let's work on that too. Okay, what we want to do now is while this brightness knob is moving, we want this blue slider to move along with it. Okay, so to do that, we need to use the chain trigger. Now this is a very nice trigger here in protopie. What chain does is to connect two things together. Think of the scenario whereby a man is taking his dog out for a walk and the dog is bound by a chain which is being held by the man. So what the chain does here is that it connects, it connects his dog to the owner. So if that dog has to run, the man also needs to run. Now I think you're able to get the hang of it. Okay, let's start. Chain. What do we want to chain? We want to chain the brightness knob. So Okay, select the brightness knob. We want to change it while it's on the X position, because that's what we're going to use to know when to move the blue slider or not. Okay, so we're going to select scale and we're going to choose blue slider. What we have just done now is to connect the brightness knob while it's on the X position to the scale of the blue slider. So while our brightness knob on the X position is at 0.0, we want the width of our blue slider to also be 0. And while our brightness knob is at the end of its container, which is 250, we want the width of our blue slider to also be 250. Okay, in case you're wondering how I knew it was 250, it's very simple. Just highlight your slider and then you can tell that its total width is 250. So that's how I knew that it was 250. Okay, let's test it out. Let's preview it. Okay, let's see if it's working. And yes, it's working. Okay, so but right before I go, there's still a problem. We still have other things we need to figure out how to do. As you can see, it's supposed to change color like to orange or so when it gets to this point. So let's work on that. Okay, we want our brightness knob to change its color from blue to orange when it's at this position. Likewise, our blue sidebar. First of all, the first thing we have to do is to be able to communicate with protopie to tell it to detect our brightness knob position. So let's do that using the detect trigger here. Okay, let's search for brightness knob. Okay, yes, on its X position, and we want to store that position. But right now, how do we store values in protopie? Of course, we need to create a variable. Click on the plus sign down here. Yes, let's select for this scene. Since it's just one scene we have. Okay, let's rename our variable to, let's say, slider position. You can rename it by anything you want or you wish to name it with. Okay, as you can see, our variable is set to a number type, meaning that this variable or this container can only take in numbers. Okay, so we want to, after detecting the position of our brightness knob on the x-axis, we want to store it inside a variable. We're going to do that using the assign feature here. Okay, see, for the assign, we need to select our variable, select slider position, the one we just created. Then for formula, remember, what do we want to store? We want to store the X position of our brightness knob. So click on this plus sign, search for brightness knob, and that should be. Then .x, that's the property of our brightness knob. Property in this case is the X position. Good. Okay, so what we have done so far is to detect the position of this brightness knob in its container. Whenever it's from here to here, it's going to be storing it inside this slider position. Let's see if it works. To know if it works, click on this sign here. This will come up showing you what exactly is in your variable. Right now it's 0. If we move it, we see it's increasing. As you can see 230 increasing. Remember, I wanted that when it's here at this point, the color will change. Both our blue slider and our brightness knob will change from blue to orange. Let's do that. To do that, we are going to add a condition. Now, what we're basically doing is telling protopie that under certain parameters, perform certain actions. In other words, when the parameter now is when this blue brightness knob is on this position, we want the color to change. In this case, we know that around here, if you highlight this and move it towards this place, if you check on your right panel, you see that its position currently on X is 197. So let's just say when it's above, or let's say when it's above 197. Sorry, first of all let's select our brightness knob. Exactly. Okay, it's X position, correct. When it's above 197, we want the color to change, so we're going to choose a color response and then make sure your brightness knob is selected. click on this. Let's change the fill color to F14630. Okay, then duplicate this using Command D or Control D depending on your system. Command D for Mac, Control D for Windows. Okay, this time around select your blue slide or blue slider. Blue slider. Yes, we also want to change it. Okay, please when you're using protopie, don't just set the color, you also have to set the fill as well. I'm sure we didn't do that here exactly, so make sure that 100, that's like full opacity. Okay, good. So it's at 100. Let's test it out. Let's see if it works. Let's see. Okay, it worked, but look closely. You see, it took some time to change, so that's the duration. Now let's turn that off. Let's set it at 0 for both of them so that they will happen immediately. Okay, let's check it now. Okay, see, it's happening really fast. Okay, but then there's a problem. Sorry, it doesn't change back to blue, so let's work on that. We currently told you that when the brightness knob position is above 197, this and this should happen. So let's just duplicate it. Click on your condition and once again Control D or Command D on Mac. Then this time around we're going to be saying when it is less than 197, we want the color. Just use the color picker here. I want you to change it back to blue. Okay, change it back to blue. Do the same for the both of them. Use your color picker again and let's change it to blue. Okay, so that should work. I think so. Let's see. Okay, fine, it's working. See, it's working just fine. Okay, I've gotten this. The next thing we need to do is when it's at this point, we want these rectangles to increase, like the length should increase. When it's at this point, we want these rectangles to also decrease. So let's do that. So in protopie, you can communicate with components using send and receive. So remember, we want the color to change to orange when it is high, and the condition for that is right here. When the brightness knob position is above 197. Let's rename our condition so that for clarity purposes, condition for high and condition for low. Okay, so when it's high, we want to send a message. Remember, I said in protopie you can communicate with your component, which is our rectangles in this case, using send and receive. Let's send a message. Let our message be high. Okay, then when it's low, let's also send a message. Let's send the message low. Okay, let's say low. Okay, please, when we're sending this message, I want you to take note of this. The channel was set to send to current scene for low, and for high it's also set to send to current scene, so that when we are in our components panel, we want to make sure that you're receiving these messages from the same channel. So click on component icon here and then click on your component. Remember, we sent messages when we were in the scene. Now we need to receive those messages. We are going to receive the first one. Remember, receive from current scene is the same channel as the same one we used to send. So let's receive the high one. It doesn't matter the one you receive. Okay, when it receives high, what do we want to happen? We want to change the color of our rectangle to orange. Let's say F14630. Good. Set your fill to 100. Okay, and then when it's low, let's receive another message for that. When it is low, as in when the message we receive is low, we want to take the color of our rectangle back to what it was. The color was, I think it was 7E. Good. Okay, don't forget to set your fill to 100 as well. If not, it won't work. Okay, let's see if that worked before we try any other thing out. Let's see. when it's at this point. See, it worked, but then again it's doing the same thing. It's happening really slow. So let's turn off the duration. Sorry for that. Okay, set duration to 0, set the duration to 0, and that should fix it. So see now, when it's at this position it has increased. When it's here, see, it's colorful, not colorful, colorful, not colorful. Okay, good. So what we want to do now is when it's here, we want the length, or should I say the height, to increase. So how can we do that? We want it that when it is here, the scale is going to increase. Simple. There are many ways to do that, but our advice, let's just send our variable, because remember it holds the value from 0 to 230 because that's the width of our brightness slide bar container. Okay, so let's send it. Let's add the send response. Let's send our slider position. Let's just say knob position. Yeah, let's send a value together since we want to send what position it is at currently. Click on this, click on the plus sign, set for your variable. Okay, good. Now let's go to our component. Okay, now we're with our component, and let's receive the message which is holding the value of our position. Click on receive from current scene. Yes, not position. Remember, we sent it with a value. That means we need to also receive the message with a value, and we need to assign that value to a variable. But currently we don't have any variable here, so to do that we're going to click on this plus sign here. Let's name our variable. Let's name it as, let's say, position. Okay, so assign the variable, assign it to position. So now what do we want to do? Now we have received, let's rename all this so that we won't be confused. We have received high, the knob position. Good. Okay, so now that I've also received that, let us chain our variable to the length of our rectangle. Okay, let's click on add trigger, then click on chain, select our position. Good. And then scale it. Okay, remember we need to scale our rectangle. So remember that the position of variable, that's the value in our variable. We know that our frame or our container for the brightness knob is 230, so meaning it's going to start from 0 to 230. Good. So now, while our variable is at 0, we want the smallest length of our rectangle to be 4. You can use whatever number you like. I choose 4. Then when it's at 230, we want the largest value of our rectangle. I'm going to say 30. So let's test it and see if it's working. Let's go back to our scene, click on preview. So as we increase, they are also increasing gently. Then at this point, you see it's at 30 now. Let's just add another color, duplicate the color, and this time around we are going to search for ellipse. Sorry, I think it's this brightness ellipse. Exactly. Sorry, change the color to F14630. Fill should be at 100. Remember what I did is, for the condition of high, like when it's high, the color of that ellipse should change to this. Just copy this response and come here and Ctrl V or Command V, paste it. This time around, when it is low, we want it to go back to its previous color, which is this, I assume. Okay, good. Okay, sorry, click on make editable. think that's the reason why it's not working. Okay, now it's working. Okay, so the only thing remaining right now, yes guys, we're almost done, is just this text. We want this text to change color from this ash to orange, and we also want the text to be changing like from 0 to 100. We want it to be interactive or advanced per se. So let's do that. We want, first of all, you have to click on your text, make sure it is editable. Okay, what we want to do now is that when our brightness knob is at its highest point, we want the color to change, and more importantly, we want our text to also change. That's from 0 to 100. So what we have to do is we have to use another chain trigger to chain the position of our brightness knob to our percentage. But first of all, let's create a variable for our percentage. I almost forgot, sorry. Let's create a variable, let's name it percentage, and this variable can only take in numbers. Okay, good. So now let's chain our variable percentage to our distance, to our brightness knob. Okay, so chain percentage to our brightness knob position. Good. What we want to do now is to make our text color to change when our brightness knob is at this position, and we also want this text, the value of this text, to be changing while our brightness knob is in motion. So to do that, first things first, let's create a variable that will hold the value for our percentage. Let's name this percentage. You can name whatever you like, but I like naming my variables in a way that I'll know what they are holding. So let's name that percentage. So now let's chain our brightness knob position to the percentage variable. Let's chain our brightness knob. Search for brightness knob. Okay, yes, position, that's the X position. Let's assign it, sorry, we want that when it is 0 to 30, we want it to be 0 to 100. Sorry, I've not even selected my variable. Select your variable. What we just did here now is that when our brightness knob, look at it, x of brightness knob to value of percentage, what it means is that while our brightness knob is on the X position of 0, we want our variable percentage to hold in the value 0. That means for this point, or at this point, our text is going to be displaying 0. Then while our brightness knob is at the position of 230, that is at the end of its container, we want our percentage variable to hold in 100, meaning that we're also going to display 100 here at that point. Okay, so we have done that. So all that's remaining right now is to be changing the text while our brightness knob is in motion. To do that, let's come under the text, click on this plus sign, add text, select our text layer. The reason why we're only seeing this as only text is because this is only text we made to be editable. So select formula, click on this plus sign. We are going to be using percentage. Good. Okay, so what I've just done is that we want our text to be changing its value to what is inside the percentage variable. So let's test it out. Let's see, we have some decimal points, and again our text is at the left hand side and the percentage symbol is no longer there. Let's fix all of that. Okay, first of all, let's click on our text. Let's make sure that it's set to, let's set its alignment to center. Okay, good. Then as for the text itself, something we can do, let's use the formula seal. What this does is to, let's say, round up any decimal number to its next or nearest whole number. So seal percentage. Okay, good. Plus we want to add our percentage sign. So this is what this does. This plus here adds the percentage sign to the value that we're going to be inputting in our text layer. Let's test it out. Let's see. Sorry. Okay, see, the number now is whole and its alignment is also at the center. All that is left is for its color to be changing. So let's go to where we set our conditions. Now in condition for high, let's duplicate this color and let's select our text. Good. We want the fill, not the border. Just copy this. Sorry, copy all of it. Copy it and paste. 100. Turn off the border. Good. Copy, and then in condition for low, paste it here. We want to change it back to this color. Good. Hope you guys understood what I just did. If you don't understand, please you can use the comment section below. I'll be glad to help you out. For our text, sorry, we're supposed to use text, not fill. We made a mistake there. I'm very sorry for that. This is my first time, so everything is a little bit new to me. It's my first time doing a YouTube video, so okay. So likewise, these two, same goes for this. Copy it, add text, paste it here, make it 100, and remove this background fill for both of them. Okay, so now this should work. Okay, you see how it's working effectively. If it's too slow on your system, you can check if your duration is too high, you reduce it. Okay, so everything is working so good. What's remaining now is for our screen to dim and then be bright. So first of all, let's turn off this green variable here. Let's turn it off. Okay, good. Remember, we turned off our brightness frame. Look at it right here, it's turned off. Let's move it to the top of our layer. Good. Okay, the top of our layer now. Okay, what we want to do, let's turn it on back. See, okay, so right now we want to change our percentage variable to the opacity of this frame. So let's use the chain. Let's select our variable percentage, and then let's select the opacity of our brightness frame. Okay, so look at it's written down here, percentage of variable to the opacity of brightness frame. So when the percentage is at 0, sorry, at 0 exactly, we want the brightness frame opacity to be 80. That means the frame should look dark, but we can still see through it, but it should be dark. Good. Then when the percentage variable holds the value 100, that means when the brightness knob is at this position, when it's here, we want the opacity to be 0. Let's see if that works. Okay, let's see if it works. It's working. Okay, then there's one last thing. Let's restart this. If you notice, even before we start doing anything, you can notice there that our text is holding the value 100%. To work that out, all you need to do is just to edit this. Let's turn off our brightness frame again so that we can edit everything. Just highlight it, and then this time around change it to 0. That's all. So that you see, then we on our brightness frame again. Let's preview it. Now it's at 0. Everything is the way it should be. If you're increasing it, see, it's increasing, and there we have it. Okay guys, we have successfully animated our brightness slider. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Just wait, before you go, for more tips or videos on protopie animations like this, you can connect with me on my Instagram page or Twitter or TikTok. The links are down there in the caption below. Please don't forget to subscribe, follow and like for more videos. Thank you. Hope to see you next time. Bye.